the more transformed we can be. So what we do is we try to exchange adequate information of the truth. We try to conform to the principles so we can live a life that we were created to live. And this new life, for most of us, we didn't even know it existed. When Zach was talking a while ago, and I see the difference. See, I remember when I came here last month and talking to him in that kitchen that Sunday night. And I'm telling you, gloom, despair, and agony on me. But in a short period of time, look where he is right now. Smooth skin, glowing, and something's flowing inside him that wasn't flowing inside him when he got here. And this gives you a glimpse of your future. And what we want to do is get a glimpse of our future, and we want to get excited about it. And you saw and heard all the laughter and all the joy and all the freedom as we went around the room. But we all had our early days in sobriety. We all know what it feels like to be sitting in that seat right there. But see, this time next month, most of y'all are going to be gone. There's going to be a new bunch of people sitting in here. We don't know their names. We don't know if they're black or white, and we don't care. We just want to be sure that they have the same opportunity to turn their life around by God's grace through the power of this 12-step program. And the question is, are you going to be back to try to help those guys? Are you going to stay in here with us? Are you going to have that desire that Zach has got in him right now? Because our meditation this morning, it talks about it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laws, which is past accomplishment. What I did here, what I did then. And what we're doing right now is we're establishing a testimony for the future. And you're either going to establish a good testimony that this way of life that you come in contact with works, or you're going to establish a testimony that this way of life that you came in contact with up here don't work. And I'm telling you that somebody's going to follow your example, and if you choose not to do this deal, somebody's going to die. And you just need to know that right now. That's reality. Y'all believe that? We know it, don't we? We see it all the time. That's what this board's all about. It's all about choice. It's all about breaking old habits and developing new habits. When Joe was up there talking this morning, I thought about why don't we get up at 6 o'clock in the morning? Because we want to break those old habits. Why do we want to make up our bed and clean our room out and get all those drinks and all that food out of there? Because we want to break those old habits. And we want to develop new habits. And so this place is structured, okay? There's a structure here. Just like there's a structure in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that structure is a pyramid structure. The symbol of AA. There's a structure, there's a pyramid, it's got 3 points on it. And those 3 points to me represent what the 3rd step prayer says. It says, God, I offer myself to thee. Then it says, take away my difficulties, that victory over my difficulties may bear witness to those I would help of thy power. That represents 1 point. Thy love, that represents another point. And thy way represents the 3rd point. So it's God's power, God's love, and God's way. And then there's a circle around it. And that circle represents the circle of love, or the spirit of the universe. Now that structure is safe and protected. And as long as we inside that structure trying to do the deal, we're going to be safe and protected as long as our motives are good. The way the big book puts it is keep on the firing line of life with these motives, and God will keep you unharmed. So we come in here. I didn't view it as a sheep pen when I got here, but I view it as a sheep pen. The book talks about it. It calls it a fold. The big book talks about it being a fold. To those now in its fold, Alcoholics Anonymous. That's on page 561. We're not going to go there. But it talks about it's made the difference between misery and sobriety, and often the difference between life and death. This is a very serious deal with you. But it's not just your life that you're trying to turn around. If you turn your life around, then you're going to be used to help turn other people's life around. And if you don't turn your life around, you're going to be used to lead people away from this fellowship instead of leading people into this fellowship. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What I'm saying is, we're an instrument. We are an instrument for this negative nature, which represents darkness. Or we're an instrument for this positive nature, which represents light. So we're going to set an example, and it's either going to be a good example, or it's going to be a bad example. And so everything revolves around this one word, choices. It's going to go back to your desires, your motives, your ambitions, your objectives, because both these natures have a purpose, and we need to know that. And here we are within our circle of influence. Within our circle of influence, we got family, friends, and society. Family here, friends here, society here. And in each one of those people have a circle of influence. Everybody has a circle of influence. It's either going to be used in a positive way or a negative way. And I wanted to go ahead and break this down so we get a glimpse of what all this stuff up here that might look kind of garbled and confusing means. But it's real simple. It just looks kind of complicated. So we're either going to be used to bring pain, shame, regret, misery to our family, friends, and society, and that's what we've been being used for. Y'all agree with that? Or, but what we want to do to get a glimpse of our future is we want to come over here on this side. We want to be messengers for the light. We want to be messengers for the truth. We want to be agents for this side instead of being agents for this side. And we have a choice in that. And we may have not known that we had a choice in that before we got here. But when you leave here, you're going to know that you got a choice. And if we focus on what's bad today, on page 419, it says, when I focus on the problem increases. But when I focus on the answer increases. Well, whose choice is that? So what we got to learn how to do is take these negative thoughts captive. Because what these negative thoughts do is they take us into captivity. That's why we get up in the morning and we pray and we meditate. Because we're breaking the old habits and developing some new habits so we can replace these negative thoughts with positive thoughts. And in the big book it says, though our family be at fault in many respects, we shouldn't be concerned about their faults. We should concentrate our focus on our own spiritual demonstration, which is our example. Then again, in this paragraph right here, in the 12 and 12 on page 78, it says, these obstacles, however, are very real. And it talks about one of the most difficult obstacles there is for us is forgiveness. It says, the moment we ponder a twisted or broken relationship with another person, our emotions goes on the defensive. And so what we do is we focus on what they did to us or what they said to us. We get mad about it, go to bed on our anger, turn it into a resentment, and then we get in bondage. So we get in bondage, and they get in bondage. And they say things and do things to us that hurt us, and then we say and do things to them that hurt them, and you know what hurt people do? Hurt people hurt people. And we don't understand, and we're confused, and we're baffled because we're dealing with cunning, baffling, and powerful. exclamation point. It says, without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power, and that one is God. And I didn't understand. Let's go ahead and clear the ground on this God of your understanding, okay? I'm gonna clear the ground completely on it. I didn't understand that concept when I got here. Then I realized I got 3 daughters and 1 son. And each one of them have a different understanding of old dad. And each one of them have a different relationship with old dad. And when you put it on a broader scale, and put it on a spiritual level, God wants to have a relationship with each and every one in this place and in this world. But it's up to the individual whether you want to have that relationship with him or not. And that's a personal choice. The guy gave us free will, and he will not violate our will. All right, let's look at the bottom of 152 instead of the top of 153. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the plans for the morning, okay? We're probably going to have, we'll probably talk about another 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll have a break. And then we'll have 2 more sessions as a rule. Sometimes we have 4 sessions here, just according on how we're being led and how everything goes, okay? But we're going to plan on having some good breaks but at the bottom of 152, there's some promises. What you doing, the new people here, what you doing at this place is you're meeting your new best friends. And you're going to be bound to those friends as long as you and those friends do the deal. There's a condition behind it, okay? It says, among them, look at the book with me, among them you will make lifelong friends. You will be bound to them with new and wonderful ties. So we can get excited about this. First thing is we're going to escape disaster together because we've been caught up in a trap. And we've been bound. And we're going to escape disaster together. And then we're going to commit shoulder to shoulder. Most of us, if we'd have met out there in the joint, we'd have been nose to nose. That's true or false? I can just see me and Jordan meeting out there. We probably wouldn't have got along very good. Maybe, maybe not. Then again, we may have been running buddies. Who knows? But he says, then you will commit shoulder to shoulder your common journey. That's unity. That's one side of our legacy. He says, then you will know what it means to give of yourself. That's service. That others may survive and rediscover life. That's recovery. That's the 3 legacies of the triangle. Unity, united with you, and you know what we're united in? United in love. Love for our fellow man, love for God. And he says, that others may survive and rediscover life, says you will learn the full meaning of love thy neighbor as thyself. And your neighbor is just simply somebody that's in need. And so, on page 124 and 12, we're not going to go there. Y'all just mark it down, the ones that's taking notes. It says, love freely given surely brings a full return. That's a setup. When Bill Wilson was in the hospital, he said the thought came to him that there were thousands of alcoholics. Well, I'd say today there's probably millions and maybe a few billions, okay, that would love to have what had been so freely given him. And he had this thought. He said, perhaps I could help some of them. They, in turn, might work with others. And so there's a little statement in the It's in quotations. I know where the quote comes from. It's at the bottom of 110, and on page 166 in the 12 and 12, it says, freely you have received, freely give. All right, now the next paragraph on page 153, here's where I was wanting to get to. That said all this stuff to get to this right here. Y'all ever heard this statement before? All rise. Y'all ever heard that? It wasn't a pleasant 2 words, was it? All rise. Oh man, and here comes all the fear, the anxiety, and the frustration, and man, what am I going to have to go through next? All right, let's look at this paragraph real close. It says, it may seem incredible that people like us are to become. That's a process. Happy, respected, and useful. I'm going to ask y'all this. How many of y'all want to become happy? How many of y'all want to become respected? And how many of y'all want to become useful on this side? Okay? We got to have a glimpse of our future. We got to have a goal. You see what I'm saying? If somebody would have told me years ago that I'd have been up here doing this right now, I'm telling you, if I hadn't been an old drunk and a junkie, I wouldn't be here right now. But I went through what I went through to prepare me for what I am today. And you've gone through what you've gone through to prepare you for what you're going to have the opportunity to become. And that's an agent for this side over here, a messenger for this side over here, right? In simplicity, we're just messengers for the truth. But the truth is a spiritual liberator. If you know the truth and act upon the truth, then the truth is going to set you free. But that's your choice. It says, it may seem incredible that these men are to become happy, respected, and useful once more. Y'all see choices there? Y'all see those choices? Then it asks a very pertinent question. It says, how? Man, that was my big question. When Jordan said, let go and let God, I said, you know, that sounds good, but I don't know how. I need a formula, man. And I found it inside this book. I found it inside that 12 and 12. And in the book, big book on page 87, it says there are many other helpful books. There's a lot of helpful books. Daily Reflection, 24-hour-a-day book. It said one can obtain those books from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. So I took the one that the minister recommended to me. It's called the Holy Bible. So those are the 3 books that I use mostly, personally. That's my 3 books of choice. How can they rise out of such misery? Okay, now here's what we're going to do. Y'all with me? We're going to rise. We're going to rise out of that self-pity dugout. We're going to stop the bleeding on the flow of misery. We're going to cut that enemy off at the path. And we're going to help the generation coming up in under us to do the same thing. That sound like a plan? I believe the generation that don't let the world change them will be the generation that changes the world, and I believe I'm looking at that generation right now. Or at least a small handful of it. The practical answer is that since these things have happened among us, did y'all hear it? Let it be real personal. They can happen for you. In other words, you can become happy, respected, and useful. Here's the condition. Should you wish them above all else and be willing to make use of our experience. The key is willingness. So this is a book of experience. This is a book of experience. There are many other helpful books of experience that can help us to teach us how to overcome the mistakes that we have made in our life and turn them into assets. Does that make sense? It says, we are sure they will come. The age of miracles is still with us. Our own recovery proves that. I'm going to pass this little old picture around. This is a picture of myself, and it was taken 25 years ago next month. I was 35 years old when this picture was taken. And the reason I got to looking like this, it was a one day at a time process. But it all went back to the choices that I made, starting way down here, that led me to places I didn't want to go and made me do things I didn't want to do. Kept me in places much longer than I ever wanted to stay. It made me pay a bigger price than I ever wanted to pay. But I'm not the only one that paid that price. Here it is right here. I look at this place. I look at the Discovery place as being a distribution center. And so God has brought us together here today, and I thank God for that. There's a statement in 12:12 says, as an insurance against big shotism, we can remember that we are sober today. This is on page 92. Y'all can write it down and look it up later. I am sober today only by the grace of God. So give him credit where credit is due. And any success we may be having is far greater his success than ours. So what I believe some of y'all are going to do, hopefully, is going to go back to wherever you came from and maybe start some good open AA meetings. I believe in the open AA meetings myself. We have 19 open AA meetings a week down in my home group down in South Haven. And we're having a lot of people turn their life around and celebrating birthdays. And it says, our hope is that when this chip of a book, and you may be the only one with this book in your hand. The big book talks about that too. It's launched on the world tide of alcoholism, and everybody's got their views about what alcoholism is. I like to say the isms is inside spiritually maladjusted. The big book says it didn't satisfy us to be told that we were maladjusted to life, and full flight from reality is just downright mental defective. See, I had the isms before I poured the alcohol in them, and then some doctor back in the 1800s coined the phrase alcoholism. Then they started calling it a disease. And I didn't understand the disease concept until I saw it being a spiritual malady, and then I understood that part. Book says when the spiritual malady or disease is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Page 64 in the big book, and then on page 44 in the 12 and 12, it says this perverse soul sickness is not pleasant to look upon. I could see it being a soul sickness, and I could see it being a spiritual malady, but I couldn't buy the intellectual view. This is just my point of view, and I'll say this about points of view. I got mine, you got yours, but I'm searching for God's. Defeated drinkers will seize upon it. Well, how do we become defeated? Well, I would say one good look in the mirror ought to be convincing enough. What we do is we reflect back. And we start reviewing our scorecard. And we start reviewing our scorecard. See, this little thing right here represents a tombstone. got a born date, we got a death date, we got a dash in between. That dash represents your life. One of these days, that dash is gonna end. And you don't know when it's gonna end. But what does your scorecard look right now? How does your scorecard look right now? How could you not be willing to take advantage of what's being offered to you? We're going to talk about that in a little bit when we come back after we take a break. But here's our hope. Fourth line down in that paragraph, so I'm just going to read the whole thing. Repetition's the name of the game for simplicity. Our hope is that when this ship of a book is launched on the world tide of alcoholism, defeated drinkers will seize upon the book, follow its suggestions, meaning we are sure, what's those next two words?
Will rise.
Will rise. Are you going to be one of them? Make up your mind.
Yes, sir.
Make up your choices. Are you going to commit to this way of life? You know, if you do commit to this way of life, you're going to get convicted because the things that used to be okay for you is not going to be okay for you anymore. But as a result of that conviction, you're going to have some courage. You know what you're going to have courage to do? To change. Choices. Think about these C's. Choices. Commitment. Conviction. Courage. Change. You know what changed lives are used to do? Change other people's lives. Not by our power and not by our strength, but by His power, His love, and His way of life. It says they will approach still other sick ones. Boy, I was a sick, puny rascal when I got here, and I was starving for spirituality. I was like a skeleton with skin on it. Right now, I got a little meat on it. They will approach still other sick ones, and fellowships of Alcoholics Anonymous may spring up in each city and hamlet, havens for those who must find a way out. And we'll go to page 125 in the 12 and 12. We'll do this little deal right here, and then we're going to take a break. Sound like a plan?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about our ambitions just for a second. What are your ambitions? What are your objectives? What are your goals? All of those for me is to become what God created me to be. It says true ambition, bottom page 124, true ambition is not what we thought it was. I can tell you what I thought true ambition was. Get you a good education so you can get you a good job, so you can have a pocket full of money and you can be able to live this life of luxury. Ain't our society kind of taught us that? And if you back up a few pages, it talks about money, and then it talks about prestige. Then it talks about us being childish and grandiose. True ambition is the deep desire. Right here above this mind, I got the desire. Because this desire, those desires from within, is what creates these negative thoughts and these positive thoughts. And it's going to go back to your motives. If you always check your motives, you can see where your desires are. See what your ambitions are. See what your objectives are. The 12 and 12 lays those objectives out real good on page 69 and on page 76. And if y'all wanna write that down and check them out later. But it says our deeper objective is to live at peace with ourselves and with our fellow man and with God. And the only way I know how to live at peace with myself is to be obedient to spiritual principles. Matter of fact, on page 174, and we're not going to go there, we don't have time to go to all these places. It says, unless each AA member follows to the best of his ability our suggested 12 steps to recovery, almost certainly signs his own death warrant. His drunkenness and disillusionments are not penalties inflicted by people in authority. They result from his personal disobedience to spiritual principles. So I didn't know that I really suffered from disobedientism. The deep desire to live usefully and walk humbly under the grace of God. That's what true ambition is to me. That's what I believe with all my heart. True ambition is the deep desire to live usefully and walk humbly under the grace of God. Remember what we read on page 153? It may seem incredible that these men are to become happy, respected, and useful. It says, these little studies of AA now come to a close. We've been considering so many problems that it may appear that AA consists mainly of racking dilemmas and troubleshooting. To a certain extent, that is true. We have been talking about problems because we are problem people. But here's what we found. Here's what happens up here at this place. Name of it, the Discovery Place. We come up here to uncover and discover the facts about life. Process of elimination. We got to get rid of the garbage and bring on the new. We have found a way up and out, and we wish to share our knowledge of that way with all who can use it or who can't use it. You'll be able to see that later on. For it is only by accepting and solving our problems that we begin to get right. Notice that word with ourselves, and with the world about us, and with Him, capitalized. Y'all need to pay attention to these capital letters. And these capitals, when it refers to the power, many times over, you'll see it in capital letters. A power, B power. When it says higher power, it's capitalized if it's talking about God. Y'all got that? Mm-hmm. Pay attention to these capital letters. They mean something. Who presides over us all. Understanding is the key to right principles and attitudes, and right action is the key to good living. Therefore, the joy of good living is the theme of AA 12 step, which is practicing the principles in all our affairs and being messengers for the truth.